everybody. This is Meatbag Esquire here. Sorry about the day. We have got a treat for you tonight. We have Mudpip versus 56 racing the Hollow Knight Bingo Randomizer. With me today is Quacksilver as a last-minute addition to the commentary. But the races have started. Quack, how are you doing while they get through King's Pass?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited for this seed. It's worth noting that this is a race between two players that have gone 0-3 so far in the tournament. So we are in the fourth round of most likely 5 in our Hollow Knight Randomizer tournament. After the Swiss rounds, we will split into 2 brackets. So this is a match primarily for seeding. So just because the runners have suffered some early losses in the tournament does not mean that this is not still a match with some strong contention.
Yeah. And, no matter what happens, we're here just to have a good time. We're going to see a lot of different decisions the runners make, and we'll just hang out until this race is over. So both runners going up. Go ahead.
I believe this is fully default settings, easy logic default start, so we're going to see ordinary King's Pass into checking Fury of the Fallen.
All right, and the first most important thing to check at the start of the race is that they have the same starting geo, so we are on the same seed. Good to see.
And it's a blessed seed.
That's really helpful. They'll be able to figure out where they are on all of the maps that they don't collect. So now that we've gotten started, and we'll see Zelda in a second, but we should take stock of what's actually on this board. Just going to give it a quick scan. There's obviously a few obtain goals. Obtain 5 or more charms is a pretty early goal potentially, especially with that very early one. The lure tablets and green path can be done very early, depending on items that they get. Nail masters is a pretty fast goal. The lure tablet and ancient basin can happen really easy if they get right side access.
Meanwhile, it looks like 56 already getting claw right away, immediately using it to check well.
It's a good play right there. So fast start for item progression at that seed. I guess that was at Iselda. And then the Crossroads Stag right there. Unfortunately, with Dirtmouth Stag closed, going to have to take the long walk there anyways.
Yeah, and early claw, obviously very valuable because it gets you a lot of places once you have a little bit more movement. It gets you up into cliffs right away, but worth noting that that is not one of the progression items that is also a goal on the board, those being obtain Crystal Heart and obtain Dream Nail.
So no random goal progression quite yet. Mudpip unfortunately falling a little bit behind because they missed the teleport back from Fury. So they're a little bit behind, but we'll see if they decide to make a different decision or follow in 56's footsteps.
Also worth noting, it looked like Mudpip hovered over Soul Eater at Iselda, which is a goal on the board, but obviously probably a little bit more important to grab Claw because early progression is very important, and you don't want to not be able to afford Claw as the game goes on.
Absolutely. So there was Crystal Heart at 14 grubs, and that, as you just mentioned, is a goal on the board. That can definitely emphasize getting grubs early. Not seeing anything else. Fury was there. So we'll see 14 grubs grab potentially, but nothing else super impressive at grubs. And if we find Crystal Heart somewhere else, then nobody's going to get any grubs this game.
14 is sort of an awkward number. It's right on the fence because it's a little bit too high to just sort of incidentally collect grubs on your way, but it's not so high that you put it out of mind and assume it's the dupe.
Yeah. So Mudpip is following 56. The one difference right now is that Mudpip has that information about Crystal Heart, but until we see some deviation, Mudpip is going to be trailing. which is the position that you never want to find yourself in Randomizer. You always want to be trying to do something different, not following in your opponent's footsteps.
Both runners making use of that early claw to check some checks and crossroads that are often put off or forgot about, like the well and this Go Mask Shard. Nothing turning up so far, as 56 having found a simple key at Crossroads Stag, and it looks like he's headed to Shops first before False Knight. With Claw, that's usually a pretty okay play, especially with a lot of obtained goals on the board, because you get 2 Shops right away without having to shade skip to Salubra.
Oh, that was probably too much. Is that better for volume? I have increased Mudpip's volume a little bit. Alright, so did Mudpip skip Crossroads or did he just hop down? They just hopped down.
Looks like they might have just hopped down, ignoring the simple key, and yeah, not having spent the Geo.
So now we're getting to Salubra. Looks like there's no goals at Salubra.
56 hovering God Tuner, but not buying it, even though it's only 1 Geo.
It is unfortunately not the useless information item that is on this board. We're looking for Collector's Map here. So rescuing Sly, gonna head back up to Dirtmouth, and we will see what is at the 3rd shop of the game.
Geo. It doesn't look like a whole lot. Both Dream Wielder and Dream Shield, but that is not a goal on the board this time.
Okay, so it looks like 56 is going to try and shade skip to right side.
A fairly strong play. If he gets it, that's a pretty easy route to check 2 Nail Masters. And if he's feeling particularly adventurous, I think he can get all the way up towards Colosseum. Although with only Claw and no other movement, even just this shade skip is not as easy as it is in, for instance, the any % speedrun where you also have dash to do it.
The one concern that I have about this play is that this is significantly breaking logic. And it's very possible that, you know, even though 56 gets a couple goals by doing this, he could put himself significantly behind in terms of item progression. If that's all on the left side in Cliffs or in Green Path, then 56 could just be essentially conceding the race by making this play.
When he gets the pogo, but it's a little bit off. As Mudpip, it looks like, is going on a route around Crossroads to get grubs, already eyeing that Crystal Heart.
Yeah. That is a valuable piece of movement. It would be the first piece of horizontal movement. And again, it's that goal on the board that we're looking for.
And 56 kills his shade and then warps back rather to Crossroads Tag. Looks like he's abandoning that right side play and just content to check False Knight now.
Yep. So this will get 56 4 checks. It's very possible at this point that there's nothing here. The runners, having found Claw, could just warp right back to where they started the game and do the quick climb up to Holling Cliffs, and that would get them potentially all the way down to the other end of Fungal just with the one item that they've found. Not to mention a little bit of deepness as well.
But both runners content to do the full Forgotten Crossroads circuit, which is not bad, because like running around with only Claw sort of feels bad in the game, so just sort of holding out hope for another form of movement, preferably a horizontal one. And without a huge amount of early goals, like 3 lore tablets in Green Path is an early goal, but needing to go all the way around Howling Cliffs to get to Green Path makes it not the fastest thing.
but it is a goal that they can do that is in logic, and heading in that direction, especially with Claw and how many checks there are in Green Path, that's not an unreasonable route to take. Though it wouldn't surprise me to see one of these runners open up Google and figure out where some of those are. I know I would have to. But it looks like 56 just found Wraith, which is a goal on the board. So that is our first random goal of the seed so far.
And Mudpip is probably going to be kicking himself as they're about to do the false night fight and find the same thing. So both runners dawdling a little bit on that early set of checks, prioritizing shops, but 56 going to take out the early advantage.
But this is, that situation that Mudpip doesn't want to be in, where they're following the other player. And so we'll see if they change their mind, pick a different play, or continue on. Probably continue on because you've earned these checks and they're pretty fast. But
that's World Sense, the other incorrect 1 geo bad item. Everything but the one we want.
Yep. So 56 is probably, at this point, forced to... with Wraith, that puts Moloch in logic. So 56 could go do that. But after that, I think we're heading to Howling Cliffs.
Yeah, they both checked well, and they both checked Go Mask Shard. So within easy logic, Howling Cliffs is all that's left. And that route around into Green Path.
All right, so with 56 fighting his second boss, we'll see where Mudpip decides to go afterwards. If it's another follow, or if they head up to Howling Cliffs. Or if we find something sweet at Marlick.
And based on prior races, I seem to recall Mudpip not the most confident runner at the Moloch fight, especially the Moloch fight early. And so if something juicy is at Moloch, it may widen the gap in terms of 56's lead.
So Mudpip is leaving, not heading directly for Cliffs.
I could be prepared to eat my words
follow
here.
Play.
Just a vessel fragment.
A vessel fragment. So now we do have to go back to King's Pass and up to Cliffs. So this is giving 56 a significant advantage. It might have been a blessing in disguise that they... oh no, Mudpip is now getting more grubs, not going to Moloch. But 56 is getting the first crack at Cliffs and Green Path, which will give them an advantage towards the... lore tablets there, and any random items that might be found along the way.
And I don't remember how much Soul Eater was in the shop, so maybe Mudpip is trying to hand in grubs and pick up that goal at shops, because I seem to recall it was there, but a little bit out of reach of just their initial geo after buying Claw, but probably not worth it versus the total progression advantage that 56 has at this point.
Yeah. Getting your goals where you can get them is always worthwhile, but sometimes you've got to decide whether you want to get progression or something else. And one thing worth noting is Green Path is full of geo, so it could definitely get quite a bit of geo in Green Path, and it would be on the way and getting progression at the same time.
And early geo goals, as we've seen famously in a couple earlier races this round of the tournament, can be a bit of a trap before you have the ability to sell to Lem. Because you just don't know what you may be required to buy in order to continue. And so without those quick infusion of geo, it's hard to commit to buying really expensive early things.
Fortunately, it looks like we're not going to be like super geo-locked this race. But who knows what's at Leg Eater for the time being.
Yep, Mudpip heading back to Zelda as 56 continues down into Cliffs.
So there's that Soul Leader by. Mudpip now has more than enough geo for that. Getting the first goal for blue.
Not quite sure where Mudpip is heading. Unless it could be the Moloch fight, but outside of that, whether they're trying to go right side or to Howling Cliffs, they have warps closer to the location.
There's also that one grub in the corner down here, but we'll see what the decision actually is. Looks like it is actually Moloch. All right, so 56 is going to continue to have a big lead in pretty much all forms of progression at this point. The one difference is that just above Baldur's, 56 didn't even rescue the one grub there. So 56 is not prioritizing grubs at all, having not even checked it. I used to say that checking grubs was not worth the time, but after a couple of embarrassing losses, I rephrased my decision, and I think, by the time you're leaving Crossroads, it's useful to at least peek at what's there, even though it takes a little time, just to know if it's worth it to get those few slightly out of the way grubs on your trek through the world map.
Yeah, grubs are a lot like checking Fury of the Fallen, that it seems like whenever a runner makes the conscious decision to skip over them entirely in one of these races, that's when you know that something really juicy is going to end up there, as 56 picks up a dash at the Green Path Stag. So that's a huge, huge advantage.
Yeah, that's something that I'm sure Mudpip's going to, get to eventually, take about the same amount of time that 56 took to get there. It's just because Mudpip is following 56, there's just this big question of when is the catch-up actually going to happen, and what decisions they're going to make to try and get them back on the race and back up on the board.
Mudpip finishing up that Moloch fight, 56 starting the Hornet fight. It's a little bit slow as far as early checks go. I know some runners prefer to skip Hornet and save the Mothwing Cloak check for a little bit later after doing more of the rest of Green Path. But while you're here anyway, and you've been given a spell early, might as well.
Yeah, Howling Race really, really does put a lot of pressure on Hornet. You are not supposed to have Howling Race by that point, and being able to combo her in the air is very strong. Unfortunately, not particularly rewarded, though 56 is probably starting to get close to that have 5 charms goal. Could potentially see them, just go to a shop to pick up one last one to make sure that they secure that goal anytime. All right, here comes the first lore tablet for 56 as well.
That's one of the most central, easiest to get to. Can probably pick up the other one at the top of this room in Green Path, as Mudpip just starting their descent through Howling Cliffs.
Yep. Yeah, the one big difference in the play pattern of them is basically coming down to that decision to check grubs early on. That's going to get Mudpip Pistol Heart eventually, but that's going to take quite a while to pay off.
And the worst case scenario is obviously if the second Crystal Heart is somewhere at, for instance, Thorns of Agony would be absolutely heartbreaking for Mudpip. For those of you tuning in for the first time, the randomizer settings for this tournament include duplicate major items, so all major forms of movement, as well as spells, and Dream Nail and the Void Heart Charm have one extra copy placed somewhere around the map, so that if you up, and if you have the extras, those just turn into Geo.
56 struggling with this dash. With Howling Race, this is a little easier to do, I think, with the air stall to refresh your dash in midair after dashing off the platform. Looks like 56 is trying to use a wall cling strat and then air stall, and finds dive there, so that was a really good catch. It's not in logic, but definitely worth the time. It looks like they're going past thorns, which is in logic for them right now. Basically, just dash is required for that. But more movement options, that opens up a lot more of the map for 56, potentially. At least 2 checks in Crystal Peaks, and
56 was already willing to shade skip to right side before he even found dash. If he decides to go back with dive, that opens up Kingdom's Edge as a huge area with a lot of checks gated by dive.
Yep. So 56 now only needs 1 more lore tablet. They actually missed one way back, just in the room before Shio. They knew it was there, but couldn't find it. You saw them looking around for a little bit. It looks like 56 is going to go get the one near Cornifer. There is the first grub for 56, not even knowing what it's good for.
Mudpip also going to commit to this Vengefly King fight. Both runners went for it. It's just some quick geo, but because of the way Randomizer works, you don't need to save Zote here for him to spawn anywhere else. And I don't think Zote's even on this board, if I'm not mistaken.
I thought Kalo Zote was on there. Yeah.
Perhaps the runner's not informed or just hungry for 65 geo, but it is a quirk with a Randomizer engine that Zote will always be in Deep Nest, whether or not you fight him in Green Path.
Just because it's so easy to accidentally get locked out of the quest. If you say, find Claw in Crossroads, then that's the normal progression, which kills Zote here in Green Path, but we don't want to be excluded from that potentially important piece of content in our randomizers. So...
Yeah. The randomizer is set up either through choice of bingo goals or through coding on the randomizer itself that you can never lock yourself out of a goal. There used to be some goals like that, most notably one involving the Hornet cutscene in City of Tears. But when we updated to the most recent version of Randomizer, to like 3.0, all of those goals were taken out, as well as some other things to generally make it easier to track what's going on. And 56 is going to find that third lore tablet.
Yep. There's that dash from Mudpip. Probably realized they're a little behind. Gonna have to make a decision about where to go from here. It's still, like, with the items that we've picked up, we don't really have access to any new areas yet. The dash gives us access to more checks in the areas that we're already in. The dive gives us access to, 2 checks in Crystal Peaks. But it's not like now they can get to right side or now they can get to Queen's Gardens with what they found. They were still looking for that piece of progression out of this side of the map.
56.
I guess dash. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was about to say that dash could get them up from Ancient Basin, but they need Trampass to get there from Deepness, so we can't even do that yet. So never mind.
But I was just saying 56 content to stay out of logic a little bit longer, going for this No Eyes Dark Room. It's widely considered to be among the easier dark rooms to pull off in the game, but it is solidly out of logic without access to the Lumafly Lantern. So maybe looking to capitalize on some of these skips that he feels Mudpip might not be doing.
Yeah. 56 looks like isn't completely comfortable with this dark room. This definitely is a lot of awkward platforming and like not knowing where all the spikes are that you have to avoid. And if you're not really sure where it is, sometimes it can just be time spent for a not very good item, especially in easy logic where you're basically very unlikely to find something here unless you're sure unless you have Lantern already. But let's see what the payout is. It's a Dreamer. That is not the Dreamer we're looking for. That infects Crossroads, which makes that infection skip to the right side easier. But again, that isn't even in logic and easy logic. So another option for 56 to get to the right side, but not in logic yet. I'm surprised 56 is going down here. Oh, I guess probably just get this journal and then going to go to Massive Moss Charger. Nope, going down.
And,
so skipping the 2 checks over there, but that's easy enough to get back to if they want to.
And Mudpip just finishing up the Thorns check, just a Rancid Egg, so 56 not going to be punished for that. And it looks like 56, true to its rando nickname, has autopiloted right past the fabled autopilot seal, the one in Fog Canyon on the way down towards Queen Station. And it's just going to head right for the Queen Station stag.
Yep. So we'll see what's here, and then I expect 56 to make his way over towards Leg Eater at this point. One or two more checks along the way as well. Mudpip has also skipped both the dive. Isma's Tear puts that acid relic in logic. That Isma's Tear also puts most of Queen's Garden in logic, so that's a big piece of progression. But 56 isn't taking that. Where is 56 going
with
from here?
Isma's Tear, you could be eyeing some of the Colosseum goals, because that makes getting through Colosseum via the upper path a lot easier. You could be eyeing Colo Zote, Colo Hot Spring, and 2 Nail Masters. Colo Zote's probably a little bit out of your way, plus needing to rescue him in Deep Nest. But no, it looks like 56 is going to Fog Canyon through this little acid skip here. Another
Mudpip gets their own dive.
All right, well, that's something very important because we have Descending Dark and a Simple Key and Isma's Tear, which means we are dangerously close to Fluke Marm.
Just need some right side access.
No, perhaps I'm mistaken. I don't actually remember if, with the update to Fluke Marm's logic, 2 dives is sufficient. I think you might need Shade.
I think you do need... Yeah, I do think you need 2 of the other spells.
Just as I say that, Mudpip finds another Simple Key, haunting us with Fluke Marm.
So 56, it looks like, is going to take the Infection Pogo to the right side, making that play that they wanted to make a lot earlier. Mudpip, I'm expecting to stay on the left side for the foreseeable future.
It's good to get some divergence in runners. The early path was both circuitous and pretty linear, so Mudpip, losing out on that early movement advantage, sort of fell behind. But now that 56 is going to a totally different area, Mudpip might be able to claw that lead back if more goals happen to be in Fungal.
Right. There are still a lot more goals on the board. There's still one shop that neither player has checked. It's just going to be, the runners doing different things from each other as we near the half-hour mark of the race.
So yeah, to answer chat, the Fluke Marm logic actually got updated a few patches ago on Randomizer, and I just checked to confirm you do need Shade Soul or Abyss Shriek specifically, in addition to a dive to access Fluke Marm and a Simple Key to get into waterways, obviously. So one more Wraiths at this point will put Fluke Marm in logic, but she's not there yet.
Over the course of the last few months, as a whole bunch of newer players have gotten involved, we've been making updates to the easiest difficulty in the randomizer, just to make it so that there's no weird knowledge tricks that you need to know what enemy pogos are in logic. We're just trying to draw the line that you don't have to pogo enemies for the most part to complete an easy seed. If you do want that, little bit of extra difficulty in your life, you can very easily just put on mild skips, and all of those enemy pogos are there for you to enjoy.
And I'm not sure where Mudpip is going. I guess this is 2 more grubs, but these grubs are fairly isolated from anything else. There's no checks, only a Cornifer location here, and he's also not on the board. So Mudpip is really banking on being able to use that Crystal Heart to get something that 56 doesn't have access to, while 56 running through the Essence checks. Looks like there's not too much here.
Yeah, I didn't see them, but I'll trust you to have looked at them all and not noticed anything of import. So the way the seed is built is it makes sure that every item in the game and all bosses, etc., are achievable and defeatable. So when we say the logic, the way a randomizer seed is built, it basically makes sure that there is progression to everything in the game, following a bunch of rules to make sure that nothing too hard is done in some cases, or like, the only claw on the seed requires claw to obtain. There's lots of locations in the game that you cannot get to without claw, for example.
That's Stag Nest Stag, pretty big. Typically, the way you get up to Stag Nest historically has been to through a skip with wings. Oh, and Vengeful Spirit, that's massive, especially because Mudpip likely not going to find that stuff at Resting Grounds anytime soon, unless they get really lucky and Autopilot Seal is Resting Ground Stag.
Well, didn't 56 just get Resting Ground Stag? That's how they got up there, right? That was in Howling Cliffs, I assume.
Stag Nest Stag was at at Dream Shield, or the Resting Ground Stag.
Yeah. So unless they get Resting Ground Stag, right?
Mudpip is not going to right side anytime soon of their own volition, it looks like. They're going to finish the left side circuit. But
did Mudpip do Overgrown Mound? Because with Claw, that is 100% in logic. I saw them do Autopilot Seal, but missing Overgrown Mound at this point could be a challenge. So could be something that they forget to go back to.
Yeah, Overgrown Mound is a tough one. As recently as the last race, streamed over on Hollow Knight Community, the final check of the game came down to Overgrown Mound, because it's such a long, singular check that oftentimes on your first pass through Green Path, unless it's a goal on the board, my inclination at least is usually to skip it and put it off for later, but we'll see if that comes back to bite Mudpip.
I mean, often you just don't have access to it, too. You need Claw in easy logic, or Wings in harder logic. But otherwise, it can be easy to forget. So one thing that we saw 56 do while they were in Cliffs, they took that opportunity to wake up the Grim Troop, unfortunately not finding anything. But now we're going to see them get the full 4 checks and crypts and then head down to the rest of right side through King Station. As we mentioned, 2 Nail Masters is on the board. They've already both gotten the 1, and 56 will have easy access from King Station to get to Oro out in Kingdom's Edge. And then if 56 wants, they can ascend Kingdom's Edge to the Coliseum to A, set up for Kalos Out, and B, splash the NPC in the Coliseum there. But before we get there, we're going to see what's a Flower Quest.
Love that. Usually, especially in later rounds of the tournament, we've seen runners just skip over these curse checks like Flower Quest entirely as, Mudpip's going to mark off 5 or more charms there. Sort of sniping that. Was that a dash at Flower Quest? Shout outs to Homophody, who put together a planned randomizer that forces you to do Flower Quest for your first dash. It's incredibly cursed. Would not recommend.
And even if you... so we'll probably not ever see Flower Quest. I mean, Shade Cloak isn't even on the board. There's very likely not 2 Shade Cloak locked dashes. So probably will not see that this game. And I also don't think that taking the flower to Elderbug is on the board either. So rip Flower Quest.
Flower Quest. Usually games that come down to Flower Quest are also games that go for a very long time, because Flower Quest is hard enough to the point where for this tournament, the runners are allowed to gentleman's agreement beforehand to just using bench warp to complete the quest for the item.
Yeah. 56 taking some damage there, but still alive, and that's what really counts. And then they're going to head on their way down to King Station. Whether they stop for the arena or for the any percent relic just above King Station will be up to them.
And worth noting that with 56's spell loadout, which is 1 of each, That puts every boss in the game, weirdly enough, except for Flukemarm, in logic, because Flukemarm is the only boss with its own special logic, and that was a recent edit because of some rather unfortunate cursed fluke seeds that required you to do Flukemarm with just Fireball and Dive, which is no small feat. Most boss logic in the game for easier bosses just requires one spell, and for harder bosses requires 2 spell levels, so either one upgraded spell or 2 different spells.
56 did just pick up the lantern. Already done 1 dark room. There's 1 more dark room that's accessible, and that does open up all of Dark Deep Nest and all of Crystal Peaks to them now. So we could see quite a bit of the map at the runner's prerogative at this point. But thinking about what the hell, that's a lovely place for King Station Stag to be found.
You just offset it a little bit.
Yeah. So, did we just find Shopkeeper's Key? No. What are we doing here? We're getting some money. Okay, so this is a sell the lem play.
And 5 Helena seals.
Oh, that's a good play. Didn't see that on the board. But the real play right here is definitely to go to Kingdom's Edge. Probably not Lem at this point. I'm not sure what he's looking for at Lem, because Kingdom's Edge on its own has 3 goals that are just sitting there waiting for you: the Nail Masters, the 420 Georock, and the Colosseum.
But this is a quick one. Visit Soul Sanctum or Royal Waterways, so 56 can pick
that's
that
true.
up almost incidentally on his way down. And with Dive, being able to get the Waterways bench is pretty useful in terms of selling to Lem and potentially going back for nail upgrades should you ever want or need those. But then probably expecting 56 to route towards Kingdom's Edge.
Yep. Mudpip is continuing their way through Fungal. One thing that I wanted to mention is that after getting the relic above the Charm Notch in Fog Canyon, both runners could have gone down to the right a little bit and gone for Leg Eater. We still haven't seen Leg Eater at this point in the seed. And that's the 4th shop. There are random goals still on the board that could be there. And it's very fast to get once you're in that part of Fog Canyon with Ismas. For now, though, we're taking the long way around. Not totally a waste of time. There are 3 checks between Queen's Station and Leg Eater, but could have gotten that just a little bit faster.
And Lifeblood Core for 56 at the Rafters. That's half a goal, I believe. 2 Lifeblood Charms on the board.
Yep. I don't think we've seen any of the other Lifeblood Charms yet, so that's basically just a random goal, and I expect Mudpip to get that one eventually. If
Raptors,
there is, say, something at Leg Eater, that second Lifeblood Charm, that could be a goal that Mudpip easily snipes from 56 that 56 had access to for a while.
And 56, it looks like, is headed out to Kingdom's Edge for the... It's a hugely dense area, both in terms of goals and checks, so smart routing at this point. Also stopping for the grub.
Still quite a bit behind Mudpip's grub count. Mudpip has pretty easy access to 2 more in fungal waste that they can get to, and then there's a few in Deep Nest that they can get to as well.
And with this much of the map in play through 56's out of logic skip to right side, it's worth noting, since Crystal Heart would be a logical right side, it's worth noting that the randomizer has a grub tolerance on easy logic, so it doesn't force you to get progression at grubs unless you can get 3 more grubs than the cost of the item in logic. So 17 grubs is a pretty tall order to put in logic without being able to get to right side anyway. So that Crystal Heart is definitely not forced. Mudpip should be able to find another way around.
That might actually be the way to get into logic, because they do have full access to Crystal Peaks. And there are a lot of grubs in Crystal Peaks that you can get just with Dash and Claw. So, we're almost there, right? So Mudpip has 10. I said there's 2 more that they can get here in Fungal. There's 2
Oh
more that
yeah,
are
that
pretty
would be
easy
it.
to get in Deep Nest. And then I can think pretty easily of 4 or 5 that they could get to in um, in Crystal Peaks. So maybe they're like one off, but they're very close to the amount of grubs that are required for that C dash to be the logical C dash.
Yep, I was focused on Lantern being helpfully located on the right side, but that may well be it. And if that's logical right side, that is really rough for Mudpip.
I mean, the Vengefly pogo to right side is not the most difficult pogo. And at this point in the tournament, that's one of those skips that you should probably be expected to have at least thought about, tried once or twice. And, ultimately, we're just here for fun. Whatever you're comfortable with, you can do and still have a good time.
And right side is such a pivotal thing in all of these races. Well, Mudpip finds Kingsbrand. Oh boy. Just because right side it means Lem, which tends to solve your money problems pretty quickly. It's access to several entire areas that you can't get otherwise. It's usually getting to right side as quickly and efficiently as possible is a very good standard goal for randomizers in general.
Yeah, unless there's a whole bunch of goals. Unless there's a whole bunch of goals on the left side of the map, getting to that right side to get those early benches that give you access to a big portion of the map is definitely a worthwhile use of your time for most races.
Pip, it looks like, might be playing Mantis Lords after this. They're fully in logic, but it is a bit of a slow check.
I mean, this is going to be, at least 4 checks for Mudpip. 2 or 3 more grubs that they can get to. So not a horrible play. It's slow. Unfortunately, while Mudpip is doing this, it looks like 56 is just going to, take over all the goals. You don't win by doing more checks than your opponent. You win by doing goals. And while there are lots of random goals on this board, there are a lot of things that are not random that both runners could go do right now. They might be hard, but they're available.
Especially with Kingdom's Edge being so gold dense. 56 doing a good job of rushing what can be rushed. And it looks like 56 is skipping Bardoon. It is an enemy pogo to get up there. And sure enough, there's our second dash without needing Flower Quest. Pour one out.
That Shade Cloak doesn't put too much more in logic, though. Because they already had Isthmus Tier. That really only adds Sharp Shadow check to what Mudpip has access to.
If Mudpip can find a way into right side, that Shade Cloak becomes more useful again when paired with the Kingsbrand that only Mudpip has. But at this point, behind 5 goals, it's a question of will Mudpip be able to hang on in this race long enough to leverage those items, because those are certainly later game items, as 56 does complete the skip up to Bardoon and is going to talk to him and mark that off.
So yeah, make that 6 goals. I'm surprised 56 left.
Yeah.
There is a lot of Geo in his wallet, and I see the fountain check on the board. So 56 could be going for that. But 56 has no idea. Oh, and the Ancient Basin the lore tablet is there too. So marking off all of those goals and cliffs is a... Well, now I'm not sure what 56 is doing.
It's trying to skip into waterways. This is a spike tunnel. It's certainly not on easy logic. It requires, claw and dash. 56, you don't have Crystal Dash. What are you trying to get to? To Isma's Grove, maybe? I don't know to what end, unless maybe he's got Emilitia and Millibel confused and is trying to head up there. That's the
So
only
56 had continued down to Ancient Basin. They can't afford the flower check. They can read the lore tablet, and that's 2 goals that are just sitting there on the board for 56 to take really easily. But
that plus 56 has access to City of Tears Grubs, because all you need for that is Dive and Claw. That plus the 2 goals in Basin plus the Kahlo Hot Spring puts 56 1 goal away from victory, even without any random checks. You could also theoretically even do Nosk if you were really determined as your 13th. So 56 has a path to victory with static goals only, and it is not in Isma's Grove.
Yeah. Still not sure what's over there. Yeah, I don't see that on the board. Alright, 56 is giving it up. Continuing down towards Ancient Basin. This is a tough check, but with dash, it's not so bad.
On 1 health, this is a tough room, full stop. It's very easy to get accidentally sniped by these wind guys. It's like close to finishing up the Mantis Lords fight, but you can see just how much ground 56 has been able to cover, and in his case, recover, as Mudpip has been on this one fight. So those 4 checks really need to be something big in order for Mudpip to come back into this.
Mudpip, I wonder if they're wondering if 56 found, logical right side access. Mudpip still doesn't really feel like they have a way to get over there based on the items that they found. C-Dash does it, but they don't quite have enough grubs to get it.
56 buying the most expensive Wanderer's Journal in the world on his way down to read the lore tablet in Ancient Basin. So already within spitting distance of the end here. And there are static goals that can put him there. Mudpip finally going to check these Mantis Lords rewards.
All right, looks like we're heading back to the top side of Kingdom's Edge, and that will get 56 to the Colosseum, and from there be a decision about where to go.
Mantis Lords is stacked. It's just nothing that's going to help Mudpip claw his way back. A White Fragment and Grimchild both behind it. That's hysterical.
We know Grimchild itself, the easy check is nothing, unfortunately. Were this another board, those could have both been really, really good finds, but unfortunately for the state of the world right now, not really that helpful, unfortunately. One last thing to check here, which is Bretta, and that is another dreamer that we are not looking for.
That's so unfortunate.
Yeah.
Pip looks like might be putting on Grimchild. Maybe gonna go for both checks here. Grim is in logic with the spells Mudpip has, so.
But it's also very time consuming and potentially not going to find anything there. 56 heading back up to Bardoon. Not sure why.
Just really wants to appreciate the time spent with Bardoon. No, it looks like he's headed out to Colosseum.
Yeah.
Just a little uninformed about the path up there.
Oh, that's a good point. Mudpip did not have infection until just now. So.
Oh yeah, because the other dreamer was in the No Eyes Dark Room.
Right.
Pip also committing the cardinal sin of hitting Grim in the beginning of the fight, which, in addition to being extremely rude, causes Grim to have an additional balloon phase, wasting even more time.
Listen, Mudpip just doesn't like vampires. Doesn't want them in their game. Get out of their house.
To be fair, I can understand not bowing to Grim if you're not a fan, but hitting him is just suboptimal. Up this suite of checks on the way to Colosseum with an 8-goal lead and no sign that Mudpip is even on the right side. 56 doesn't feel pressured to rush any of these goals too far, although Coliseum is just not in that direction.
Yep.
That's an 11th goal for 56, as well as 2 checks that, much like Flower Quest, are probably not worth actually getting unless there's something absolutely pivotal for winning the game, and 56 just going to walk right by them.
Turns around, goes up to look.
Yes,
City Crest will not be gotten, and a Vessel Fragment will potentially be gotten, but not likely given the state of the board.
So with City Crest in Coliseum, that lends further credence to the theory that C dash is intended right side, because pretty much every tool we've seen getting to right side other than that C dash is on right side. Not Lantern, not King Station Stag. We haven't seen Tram Pass yet in any way, and that's still fairly cursed. So it might just be grub farming was intended, and that's super rough, because 14 grubs is a bunch.
So 56 does leave the Pale Lurker King's Light idol on the ground. But now they're making a decision about where to go. I'm suspecting this is the Colo Zote play, but maybe Leg Eater? I don't know. There's a lot of places 56 could go from here. There are those staticals on the board, but ultimately with this big of a lead, it'd be really hard to not win from here.
Yeah, with this much of a lead, there are several, even beyond the static goals that 56 can rush that Mudpip's not near. There are several random goals that we happen to know aren't in Fungal, but could be anywhere, picking up one of 2 different stags, any Lifeblood Charm, a second Simple Key, Collector's Map, are all enough to basically just end the game on the spot. So 56, it's his game to lose.
Yep.
For the time being, he's going to repeat these checks that we have seen already from Mudpip's side, while Mudpip continues hitting down Grim. Would give you audio of the Grim fight, but Mudpip's audio is unfortunately a little bit desynced, so instead we got you these Shroomal Ogres. I think that's 3rd balloon for Mudpip, perhaps? I haven't been paying super close attention, but making all right progress. It's just a slow fight. There's not a whole lot of ways around that.
One thing also worth noting is that though 56 has achieved a bingo, that is not the win condition for this format. The goal is 13 goals. They're almost there, but getting that red line straight across the center does not help you out, except for, establishing your dominance.
I call it the moral victory.
So 56 currently following what Mudpip's been doing. Could be going for those static goals a little bit more aggressively, but,
I mean, I could understand not wanting to, or shying away perhaps from Nosk, because it's both in a place of the map that you haven't really gone to, and Nosk is a long and annoying check. But City of Tears Grubs is basically within arm's reach. Doesn't require doing any bosses. You have a couple
Yes, it
benches.
does. You have to do
one boss. Soul Sanctum.
Yeah, you have to do Soul Sanctum. So that's one boss. That's actually not the fastest check. I do agree that is definitely something they could be working for. The 2 goals that the one goal that I'm half eyeing here is that Slash Mirabelle and Pleasure House goal. Could go around to shops, make a couple trips to Lem, and scrounge up enough money to get that. We have seen 2 Simple Keys. I guess 56 doesn't. Have we seen 2 Simple Keys? I mean, he obviously has opened it up, but maybe we have only seen the one. I thought we'd seen 2 by this point. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think we just saw the one very early on. So, we're still waiting on another random check to get that.
Okay, so that's not doable. Disregard everything that I just said.
I may be misinformed. There may be a second simple key if Mudpip found a different first one to 56.
No, I think they both got the same simple key.
Yeah, because it was right at Crossroads Stag. Very hard pressed to miss.
Or did Mudpip not buy that one? That could be what happened. Yeah. Okay, so they have different keys.
.56 gonna finish clearing out Fungal. Unfortunately, the one area that we already know how the story ends. And
So literally one place Mudpip has already gone that 56 is not, and 56 is doing it, which is unfortunate, but we'll probably head back for the remainder of the map not too long after this last few checks.
I mean, with right side access, the world is 56's oyster. So after getting Dashmaster Bretta, worst case scenario, he redoes Mantis Lords. Although in his case, now that he's got Kingsbrand, it would get him the ability to full clear Abyss, because he would find another white fragment, as well as having just picked up his Shade Cloak, which could make for some entertaining content. But there aren't goals there, so after a certain point, you just gotta go deep nest.
56 abandoning Bretta, something that I think is totally justified. If you're that incompetent that you end up that far down a well, maybe you should just be left to your fate. Mudpip does find a Bishriek at Grim, but that's not the progression that they're really looking for.
It's a nice spell to have if you were to do something like fight Troopmaster Grim, but unfortunately,
yeah,
doesn't get you anywhere further. And so Mudpip, at this point, might be looking to Infection skip to right side at last, although they'd probably just warp for that, so I'm not quite sure what this play is.
This could be the Crystal Peaks play. They have dive, they can basically full clear it. I do appreciate taking Grimchild out for their walkies. Always a worthwhile use of your day.
And 56 is, sure enough, going to enter the Mantis Lords fight. So, as penitence for this, I want to see him rush Abyss after that. After getting the second King fragment and being...
No, I think we're getting a second Grim fight.
Although with Shaman Stone, Quick Slash, perhaps a slightly faster Grim fight, which is also to 56's benefit.
True.
Yes, chat, now is the perfect time to have your opinions on Myla registered forever. As Mudpip does, in fact, enter Crystal Peaks, and we'll see how far into Crystal Peaks they go.
Skipping the bottom bench here. There is a checkup here. This is worth the time, but no reason to leave the bench behind.
Unfortunately, it is just a vanilla Rancid Egg. As Mudpip going to continue and do the Dark Room into right side?
This is a tough Dark Room. No, they're going up. Okay, up we go.
Alright, just going to finish checking out Crystal Peaks. So if that's the case, there are a number of grubs. What are the easiest ones if you're trying to get to 14? There's this one right here on the way in. Can't get the Mimic Grub because that requires Crystal Dash.
The Mimic Grub... Yeah, that's right. I was thinking of the Crystal Heart Grub, which they can get. It's hard, though.
And also probably not an easy logic, right? Because you need either Wings or C-Dash to make that super doable.
Right.
Just thinking in terms of what the count for putting that Crystal Heart in logic actually is. Also, 56, having done Mantis Lords, is going to continue on. This is a fourth check that we didn't see from Mudpip, the so-called super secret seal that's hidden in Deep Nest behind the Mantis Lords access. It's gotten that name for being very out of the way and very hard to find casually playing through the game.
So feature notice to 56 if you're watching this. If this was a decision that you made to go through Mantis Lords, that's all fine and good. With the items that you had, you could have gone through Fungal around the Spore Shroom check, and that would have gotten you to Deep Nest quite a bit faster. and would have given you access to Kalo's Oat, which is what I assume you're doing here. Skips Super Secret Seal, actually, and continues down into Deep Nest.
It's okay. It's only Wings now that both runners have passed it up.
Yeah. Mudpip getting very close to that 12th grub. There's still a few more, or 14th grub. There's still a few more to get, but after beating this boss, they shouldn't be too far out of reach.
I was about to admonish Mudpip for actually waking up the Crystal Guardian instead of doing the quick kill, but it occurs to me Mudpip does not actually have Dream Nail because that was in Stag Nest, which is a bit out of their reach right now. And 56 is going to continue. This is not quite the exit for the hot springs, but going to work his way around to the hot spring bench, and from there, that's right next to Nosk, right next to Zote, and those two goals alone will do it.
Did Mudpip just skip that bench as well?
Where we're going, we don't need benches.
Apparently. Alright, so here comes Shade Cloak.
The Sharp Shadow check.
Sharp Shadow check.
For having progression whenever there's an early enough Shade Cloak on the board, or accessible rather, as Mudpip finds Tram Pass, which is
right side access.
Right side, yeah, that's enough.
They could go from the top because they have dive, or they could go from the bottom because they have claw and dash.
Yep, so there's the mystery solved. That's an incredibly out-of-the-way tram pass. It's seeds like this where logical right side is really hard to come by that really incentivize learning either the net run shade skip or infection pogos or some way of like breaking logic to get to right side.
Yeah, that's not too far out of the way though, right? So they've had dive for quite a while. Just neither player went to Crystal Peaks. We saw a whole bunch of different stuff. We just haven't gone in the right direction to get there.
And oh yes, we were talking about Nosk earlier. Nosk not in logic yet. Expects you to have Crystal Dash or Wings on easy logic. Wings and some other stuff. I think Wings and Claw maybe. But there is a Shade Skip to Nosk, which it looks like 56 is going to do now. As well as a Nosk skip that Conra, rando runner, pioneered, that basically involves getting some rather clutch wall clings. Ooh, that's an unfortunate hazard respawn for Mudpip there. Yeah. But 56 tries it once or twice and then just heads back to do the Shade Skip to Nosk. Cooperating super hard, and it looks like to the point of killing itself.
So that is our second Lifeblood charm for Mudpip. Well, the second Lifeblood charm that we've seen. I don't think they have the first one. Mudpip is now suffering from not taking that bench, either of them, because now they have to warp out. They do not have C-Dash yet.
Still 2 grubs shy of Crystal Dash, with both of the grubs accessible somewhere behind you. That's really rough.
The good news is that they did find Tram Pass. They can get to right side. They really do want to get those last 2 grubs, because that's essentially going to be 2 goals for them. Though not getting those benches in Peaks is going to make the second one, the Dirtmouth Elevator, a little bit slower. Mudpip, you have Tram Pass. You don't need to do this skip anymore. And you have infection, you don't need to die.
Oh, it looks like Mudpip.
And Grimchild is also killing the enemy that he wants to use to Shade Skip.
So Mudpip gonna continue to struggle to get to right side, while 56 is going to go ahead and enter this Nosk fight. With Shaman Wraiths and Shaman VS, Nosk will hopefully go down relatively quickly. Can still be an annoying fight when he chooses to hide in the ceiling for long periods of time. And even when the fight goes well, unless you're super upgraded, it tends to be a little slow, but not a bad 12th goal by any stretch.
A little slow given what other options they had available, but a goal is a goal at this point. All right. No, Mudpip! You don't need your shade. You can go get a bench and come back for it. It will wait for you.
That extra mask coming back to hurt Mudpip even more.
This is the time they're not going to make the jump.
How'd you know?
Well, he gets another try. They get another try, but I meant like, there. Yeah, exactly,
no.
right there. Oh no! I'm sorry I
Tram is
cursed you,
right there.
Mudpip.
So unfortunate. They must be thinking either did not process tram pass when they picked it up, or must only be considering the lower tram, because that is far and away its more common use case, unless you get tram pass like right at the very beginning of a seed. So Mudpip gonna keep going with this shade skip.
All right, we got it. We're in there.
As 56 actually having a little bit of trouble against Nosk. That was a fairly clutch shade cloak. It's one of those fights where there aren't like stellar opportunities to heal. And especially if you're healing against Nosk, that means you're not doing damage to Nosk, which means you're giving Nosk many, many more opportunities to just ruin your day.
Yeah, Nosk is not a fight that I like to do without like at least a Bistreak. I'll do it if like it's there and I'm there, which I guess is what 56 is thinking right now. Though to be honest, there are other more fun things to do on the board that are accessible that probably don't take as long and involve the really fun movement that Hollow Knight is known for.
Yeah, there is something to be said. Part of the reason I think that a lot of people diminish Nosk as a check, and in addition to it being out of the way and a longer boss fight, is just how much of it is doing nothing while Nosk runs around in the ceiling.
Yeah.
And so Mudpip is going to find what was in right side earlier. That's Lantern coming up for Mudpip fairly quickly. Stagna Stag, which is going to get them Dream Nail and VS. These are all good things to have, but a bit late in the game to be getting them.
Surprisingly few Dream Nail goals on this board. We've definitely seen other races where like the first person to get Dream Nail was able to get like 3 Dream Warrior fights under their belt before the other person could get their shoes on. But here Dream Nail really wasn't a huge advantage except for just the check for having it.
And 56, in deference to an older version of Rando where juggle Nosk's mask 3 times without dropping it used to be a goal, is going to play a little bit of tetherball by himself there. You love to see it.
So now we're up 12-2. There is one more goal for 56 to get. Looks like they're heading up towards Kalo's out. We'll see if we actually get to do it. There's still random goals on the board. But once that's obtained, it's very likely that 56 will beeline straight for Kalo and take that 13th goal that way.
I guess at this point, Kalo's out is probably roughly on the same time scale as City of Tears Scrubs, although personally I am no fan of the Coliseum and I would probably still preference that. But while you're in Deep Nest anyway, and who knows, maybe you find Collector's Map at the Zote Relic itself, as Mudpip is going to pick up their Dream Nail.
And Vengeful Spirit. which was definitely worthwhile, but now Mudpip really doesn't have anything else to do here, can teleport out to, make progress towards other things that they have available.
And was 56's first Lifeblood charm in Crypts? I don't recall, but...
That sounds right.
Mudpip with the extra one might be able to get a third goal on the board if they continue down into right side.
Yep. Did Mudpip get the bench, though?
Oh, no. Mudpip, please. My heart can only take so much.
Wait, what is... Did we rescue Zote?
Oh, chat informing me, Rafters was the other Lifeblood charm. So yes, it is waiting for Mudpip on right side.
Oh, yeah.
Once we get there.
What is 56 doing? Ascended to the top of Deep Nest, did not rescue Zote, and now we are shifting gears into the grubs.
And 56 uninformed about the fact that you don't have to do this fight. You can just hit the grub and then warp right back to King's Station. Although if you're progressing onwards, it's probably some amount of time save. I think
it really depends on what spells you have, but absolutely.
I like the visual of just hitting the grub and then dipping. Six rescued the grub on the way out to Kingdom's Edge. So this is just the one before Watcher Knights, the one before Soul Sanctum, and the one after Soul Sanctum. And 56, thankfully, with Great Slash, is able to bypass, in my opinion, the worst room in the game, which is the room with the 3 spell twisters right before Soul Master.
You would put that more difficult than some of the hive rooms? I'm not saying I disagree with you. I'm just saying, that's another area that people are keen to hate on.
The hive room with Big B would probably be my other contender. It's not so much a question of difficulty, it's a question of when things go wrong, how powerless you feel in those situations. Like bad Soul Twister RNG and bad Big B RNG are some of the worst feelings in this game, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Bad Umu RNG is up there, but Umu is a boss, and so it's his own special category.
Jason putting another contender in chat, and it's probably the room that I do the most out of all 3 that we've talked about, just because how many times if you get early infection, you have to take the bench from the stag to somewhere very close by.
Oh, yeah, and especially because that room is the ender of many and any percent run. Those infected bench flies are just so rude. Mudpip also going to pick up their 13th grub, I believe, here. So if they get the quick one on the way out to Kingdom's Edge, that is their Crystal Dash. Will they be able to do it before 56 marks this final goal? Remains to be seen.
2 more grubs to get, I believe. I think they did get the 1 grub before or on the way into Kingdom's Edge. Because they went by it twice. Yeah. But there's only 1 more grub, 1 more boss, and then 56 will get the last goal for the race.
And so if Mudpip absolutely hustles with the mod log in hand, could theoretically see them getting... Rafters is out of the way. 2 Lifeblood Charms may be a stretch, but definitely with the easy grub on the way from King's Station, might be able to obtain Crystal Heart without it. We will see. Soul Master goes down pretty quick. He's a pretty flimsy boss once you've got Shaman Stone Wraiths.
Yeah, for sure. Mudpip continuing checks, likely going to do checks on the way down to King's Station, so fortunately this might end up being a 13-2 race. Not to mention that there's always Spell Twister and potentially the 2 checks after
But imagine if like collector's map was
boss here,
right before
yeah.
the grub.
That would be a really anticlimactic way to win. Elegant key.
It's nice to put that in Soul Sanctum for a change instead of something like Flower Quest.
Not going to be seeing that, unfortunately.
At this point, it's just a question, I think, of whether Mudpip gets that third goal or not in time.
We are at King Station now, so we're almost there.
I want to believe.
Come on, Mudpip. Go get your last grub.
Finding the hilarious King Station stag. If Mudpip has lost the tunnel vision on the grubs right now when it counts the most, I will be sad. But it looks like we're getting.
Come on, you're almost there.
I believe. It's gonna be tight. That's already second phase Soul Master.
Mudpip remembers. They're going to Dirtmouth. We're gonna get C-Dash.
I believe. You got even if 56 ignores all the checks. The worst case scenario is if this is collector's map. If this pickup is collector's map, I will scream.
It's a Hollowness seal.
All right, Mudpip gonna get onto the board a third time. That crystal heart. You love to see it.
All right, there it is.
All right, nick of time.
All right, so now the last check here, that can be collector's map or Monomon. Oh my god!
Incredible. Well, that's a way to end it. Holy crap, that's amazing. All right, I'm gonna mark 56 as done, and Mudpip the same. So we'll see if either of the runners wants to hang out in voice for a little bit to talk about that race. But that is an incredible.
Hello.
Hey.
GG's.
GG. That was a good race. You made some great plays. The shade skip over to the right side was a really, really big move considering how stacked Kingdom's Edge was. How are you feeling now?
Pretty good.
Mudpip, GG, welcome to the chat.
So, first of all, that Monomon at the end, hysterical. But secondly, Mudpip, you do know, just to clarify, that Tram Pass was your logical right side, yes? You didn't need to do those shade skips at the end there.
I forgot about Tram Pass, to be honest.
That'll do it.
It'd be like that sometimes.
You also could have gone to Deep Nest and gotten that Crystal Dash a little bit earlier.
Did you?
I was halfway to like going for Zote, and then I realized I could do grubs for less effort.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were calling the something like collector's map at Zote Idol to make that a little easier, but then you warped away right away. And then we still got that sort of ending anyway.
Really did.
Sometimes Rando just gives you things.
Anything else to add? Any other questions from the chat?
How many like movement items did you get, Mudpip? Kinda curious.
I got Shade Cloak, Paw, and Sea Dash.
When you went to right side of Fungal to do Mantis Lords and everything else, that was like the one direction that you could have gone and did something that Mudpip had already done. If you had gone anywhere else, you'd have been doing new checks.
And you both obviously found the same 2 dashes, as well as that third cheeky one at Flower Quest 56. The same 2 dashes and the same claw, obviously, because it was trivial. The C dash was 14 grubs.
Oh.
All right. I think we're not gonna go digging around in the spoiler log to figure out where the last couple random checks were. So thanks everybody for watching. We might be trying to get another race scheduled for later this evening, but if that doesn't happen, the next one is on the schedule for sure tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon
That is
Pacific.
me versus Ashta Smurf.
And if you are all interested in Hollow Knight in general or Hollow Knight randomizers, you should hop on over to the Hollow Knight Discord. There's a link in the chat with the chat command, HK Bingo, and you can hang out with us. We have community races all the time. There will probably be several later today. There were a couple that happened just before this race happened as well. And have a good time with all of us. If you have the time, give the runners a follow. And otherwise, enjoy the rest of your July weekend.
GG's again to both runners. And thanks everyone for sticking with us.
GG, it was a fun race.
GG.